everybody, it's Kristin, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Connect with KB. It is so great to have you tuning in, as always, as we talk about business and education and leadership and all the wonderful things that connect us to each other. My guest today is the president and CEO of The Right Place in Grand Rapids, where he is orchestrating economic development initiatives that are making West Michigan one of the state's most attractive places to work and live. I want to welcome to the podcast Randy Thelen. Randy, so great to have you with me.
Thank you. It's great to be with you, Kristin.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the Randy Thelen story, if you will.
Yeah. Well, Kristin, I'm a mid-Michigan kid. I actually grew up in the small town of Fowler, Michigan, right there north of Lansing, and made my way just a touch further north for college, went to Alma College, and while I was there, I had an internship in economic development that I just thoroughly enjoyed. It was one of those just fantastic mentor, helped sort of took me under his wing, and then the beauty that I came to learn there that I've practiced throughout my career is balancing the public and private sector, sort of being the translator between the two to make big things happen in communities. I've built a career around this throughout Michigan, working in southeast Michigan, northern Michigan, and 10 years on the lakeshore over in Holland, and decided with my family to make our way further west. We lived in Omaha and worked there for 5 years, went to Denver for about 4, and came back earlier this year to lead The Right Place.
Well, I saw that coming to The Right Place was really a homecoming for you. How is your organization in West Michigan really utilizing companies and connecting them with resources, especially now kind of post-pandemic?
Yeah, I think that's fundamentally what I think good economic development organizations do, is they bring public and private together. We first serve the needs of companies and help make sure everything they can have it to their avail is there and ready to help them continue to grow. Of course, we do put forth effort to try to attract companies to this market, whether they be from Europe, Asia, or just down the street. How do we help them continue to grow in this market and add jobs? I think right now it's a fascinating time. In the midst of the pandemic, decision-making kind of was put on hold, and this more recently we've seen a really big uptick in decision-making and looking to invest, and we've actually had a very strong investment and job growth year.
Well, I told you when we were offline that I moved over to Grand Rapids this summer and have an opportunity now to not only have my footprint in Lansing, but Grand Rapids as well. And there's just so many remarkable things happening in regards to just continual growth, and like Perigo and their headquarters now, and the Doug Meyer Innovation. And do you work with all of these particular companies, and do they reach out to you first when they're thinking about making these moves?
Yeah, we do work with all of them, and they often do reach out to us early on to just bring us into their strategy, help us, let us help them make an informed decision, make sure they understand the advantages of making a West Michigan investment. And time again, we have a very strong value proposition. So time and time again, companies are making decisions that are favorable to our region. And, you see it in the projects you've listed. Acrisure, a great insurance company, a fast-growing firm, just opened up their new offices. Michigan Software Labs, more of a tech company, opened up a new office recently as well over in Ada. And we've had a lot of groundbreakings over the summer, Kristin, so it's really fun to be sort of driving some of that momentum and pushing to keep it going.
Well, one of the ones I did see is over in Walker that you did the groundbreaking for Speed Rack. Yeah. And I happen to have Dan Ruzicki on my podcast earlier this summer as well. And so it just seems to me that, is it hard to keep up? Because there's just so much, and it's such a good, bad problem to have.
Yeah, the pace right now is really solid, and that's what we like to see. I mean, I always tell people the challenges or the problems of growth are way better than the challenges of scarcity or decline, and so we have a good problem set to deal with. But no, we've got a great team here at The Right Place. I have the pleasure of working with about 35 just amazingly talented and dedicated staff that, we wake up every day looking to get after it and support companies, which in turn then supports our community.
Well, I know Mark Johnson over at Michigan Software Labs, and I think that they're doing great work as well. And, as you kind of talk about Grand Rapids and really kind of the mainstays of even like the furniture conglomerates, how are they kind of getting a little innovative? And are you seeing their companies really kind of continue to flourish and diverse a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of interesting change there. Hayworth, for example, does a lot of work in the residential furniture, which probably surprised some on your that are some of your listeners. We've got, Herman Miller made one of the largest acquisitions in the space, purchasing Knoll over the summer. And Steelcase is really pushing forward. They have a new CEO in place looking to diversify. All of them, though, are at the forefront of, the changing dynamic of work, with so many office workers having gone home over the course of the pandemic, now finding out what's that hybrid model look like. Our furniture companies are really informing the world as to what the future of work will look like, and putting forth their design expertise, their strategic expertise, and then ultimately delivering the products that will help their clients sort of meet their talent needs. So it's a really fascinating time in that industry.
Well, and I see that too, with Sarah Armbruster coming in as the CEO of Steelcase, and, this kind of a woman footprint coming in as well and expanding. Do you have an opportunity to interact with these CEOs, and do you, kind of have a CEO group, and do you connect a lot?
All day, every day. I was with Sarah within the last 2 weeks. Andy Owen at Herman, or I guess now it's Miller Knoll, is on our board. Tina Fries-Decker, who leads Spectrum Health, and with their proposed merger with Beaumont, will soon be the largest employer in Michigan. Another, as you said, major growth in women leadership across West Michigan. We see it, the mayor of Grand Rapids, right? So we have just frankly, a wave of new leadership coming across the region over the last few years. As it's sort of an interesting time to see that happen, and certainly I engage with them on a daily basis. Well,
for sure. And Beth Emmett, who works for Tina, worked with me over in the governor's office with Governor Snyder, and I know that she is an advisor for Tina, and I think Tina's going to be taking over both entities. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
She'll also be taking over as the chair of the board of the Right Place, which is probably even more important than leading Spectrum Health.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. Well, I tell you what, she is a busy person and a lot going on, and I think that I like to see this type of leadership, and I like to see your involvement in it. Share with the listeners kind of your 30-second pitch on quality of life in West Michigan and how you sell it.
Yeah, I mean, we really believe in this idea of people, place, and prosperity, Kristin, where we want to deliver for companies and for individuals the ability to live up and work to their highest and fullest potential. So we want to make sure we're training and educating people to the best they can, getting them into career pathways where they can really grow and flourish. And so we spend a lot of time working with companies on developing these career pathways and these training programs so individuals can really achieve a level of income that provides a great quality of life. I mean, quality of life starts with that income and what you can do and afford. The second pillar of place is how do we continue to invest in our communities so that we are a dynamic, magnetic place that retains and sort of keeps people, here and keeps them here. It's sort of magnetic connection that way, but also attracts, just like yourself, wanting to draw into this market because we have such a dynamic quality of life, whether it's you want the urban experience where we have, maybe not like Chicago that might have 5 or 6 of everything, but we have one of everything here in this market. And if you want that urban experience, we can deliver. If you want a suburban, you want a rural experience, you want a lakeshore or lakefront living, we have that as well. So I think we really have a great, truly a great place offering for people to consider. And then that last piece of prosperity, continuing to provide a more diversified, resilient business mix and job mix for people so that all of that together creates this incredible opportunity for people to live to their highest potential, businesses to perform their highest potential, and when we're clicking on all cylinders, things are really just taking off.
Well, I had an opportunity to watch a program that you were on this morning with the Michigan Chamber, and you were a panelist for their Strengthening Supplier Diversity program, and my good friend Janelle Leonard did a great job as the moderator. Mm-hmm. But what were some of the takeaways from that program this morning that you think that are important to be working on, for companies to be working on?
Yeah, if you go back to the comment I made a moment ago about living up to our highest potential, if the region is going to live up to our fullest and highest potential, everybody has to be engaged. And if you look at the data, our communities of color, our people of color have unfortunately had almost double the unemployment rate, incomes that are about 20 to 30% below those of the white population. So we're not delivering on that promise. One way, so we're leaning in on it aggressively at the right place. One way to do that is on supplier diversification. A recent report showed only 71 area companies owned by people of color are having sales over $250,000. We have to do better. And so supplier diversification is how do our companies, break up their contracts to allow for more small businesses to participate, more small businesses to compete for that work, and in turn, that's going to help us achieve that higher level of prosperity for the region.
Well, as you talk about that and about prosperity, you're coming up on your 1-year anniversary at the Right Place. What initiatives are you working on, and what do you see, and especially kind of sometimes in the small business space?
Yeah, so I mentioned the diversity piece, which I think is for everybody to consider. Our population continues to grow here in West Michigan. The fastest growing segment is our diverse population, and so finding ways for companies to better connect to that diverse talent and bring them into their companies at all levels, entry level to C-suite and everything in between, making sure we're tapping every single talent pool that we have. So we're working on that aggressively with a number of partners. The other push is on technology. If you think about the West Michigan economy over time, we've gone from a very focused manufacturing community to the more diversified manufacturing community over maybe the last 30 years. Health sciences has come of age, and we're really sort of staking a claim as a dominant position there, particularly on self-care with companies like Amway and Perrigo. And then the next sort of horizon for us is how do we add a technology cluster to the mix and to attract and build and create those jobs that, frankly, our kids, the young people across the community want to work in. So that's a big effort. We're actually kicking that off and developing a regional technology strategy.
Oh, that's great. Well, you also talk a little bit about getting talent here, and I know that the Right Place is going to partner tonight, I think, from 3 to 6 with Hello West Michigan on Rethinking Michigan and getting people to come back to the comeback state.
Yeah, the pandemic has caused us all, and frankly, I did this, Kristin. We were loving life in Denver. The kids were happy. My wife was happy. I was happy. So there was no real imperative for us to make the leap. But, as the pandemic dragged on and you start to reconsider family and the connections there, it was a strong part of the decision to come back and lead the Right Place and move back to Grand Rapids. So all kinds of people are having those same sort of thoughts, and so we put on a aggressive attraction program with our partner Hello West Michigan to try to make the case for individuals who may have graduated from here, maybe have worked here for a while and then left. There's a great opportunity to come back. There's a great quality of life. The community is not maybe the one that they left 10, 20 years ago, and so we want to showcase all the great attributes that make up the West Michigan story.
Well, you're doing just a great job at that, Randy. And, I mentioned to you earlier, too, that I saw where you and Rick Baker, who is the president and CEO of the Grand Rapids Chamber, have a really good working relationship. And I wanted to touch base on that, and that you're so supportive of each other. And how is your relationship with other leaders in the community, too? I think it says something about you and your personality and your leadership style on this willingness to come together on the same team and not be competitive.
Kristin, I've never heard of Rick Baker. I don't know who that is.
That is good. That
no,
is good.
Rick is we're attached at the hip, if you will. Grand Rapids has grown into this great sort of mid-sized city, but we're not so big that we can do things independently. It really takes collaboration and partnership. And I'm lucky here leading the economic development effort for the region. He's fortunate to be leading the Chamber of Commerce on a regional basis. And we really quickly hit it off. We made a connection. We recognize that we're better together than trying to do our own thing independently. And I'm actually running into him later tonight to talk strategy again. So it really, I think that's part of what makes West Michigan special, is that collaborative culture that we have, in this recognition that we can go farther together. And I think that's something he and I both live by.
Well, I happened to run into him last night at Rich Studley's retirement party from the Michigan Chamber, and I invited him to come on the podcast too. So I'm going to see if he actually admits to knowing Randy Thelen at some point in time. But, as we talk about your role over there, and I so admire the work that you do, and, such a fan of the Right Place. What do you see for yourself, for your team going forward, and kind of what's the best advice that you would give young people about living in West Michigan?
Oh, yeah. I would say for us at the Right Place, continue to push this growth strategy. Michigan, as you saw in the latest census, did not perform all that well. And here in West Michigan, we did, but we got to keep up that pace of growth and really support the state in that way. That we've got a lot of things working in our favor, but we can't take that growth for granted. We got to keep working at it each and every day, and that's what our team wakes up to do every day. I think for those who either consider, maybe live here now, going to school here now, and considering where they want to go, I would tell you, having done it myself, having gone to one of those marquee Denver markets, it's not always what people think it is. There's problems with some of that hyper growth. There's challenges in terms of congestion. There's challenges in terms of, frankly, even air quality. That it's not always greener on the other side of the fence. I think what's happened in West Michigan really over the last 15 years is just an investment in place, an investment in our community. It's a whole different quality of life that we get to enjoy today than, frankly, when I left even 10 years ago. I think for young people, embrace the outdoors. We have an incredible outdoor recreation opportunity. You can hike, you can bike, you can sail, you can kayak, you can do virtually anything, ski, you can do anything you want in this beautiful market and not feel overwhelmed with people. I think there's just really something special about what we offer outdoors here in Michigan that we can embrace even further.
I think you're absolutely right. How did the kids feel about coming back?
Yeah, it was interesting. Their only ask was that we don't move into a sort of a rental before we buy a house, which was challenging in this housing market. But they, having been out of school or doing online school, I guess, for a year, they were ready and hungry to get back in person, and the Michigan schools offered that. And also to get closer to the grandmas. I think they started to realize with the pandemic, family matters, and that was pulling on their heartstrings a little bit more than maybe it had prior. Absolutely.
Best career advice that you've ever received, Randy?
Oh, boy, Kristin, I would say make the decision, right decision, wrong decision, make the decision. I think time kills more deals than anything, and sometimes delaying decisions creates those delays that then, kills the opportunity. So I think, directionally, you've got to get it right more often than not, of course, but I think good leaders do that. Waiting and delaying, I think that causes more challenges than anything.
You bet.
And as we race out of this pandemic, I think that's more important than ever. Make a decision. Let's keep marching ahead.
You bet. Absolutely. I want you to know how much I appreciate you coming on with me today. I want you to say thank you to Donna Ford for helping me get you on the air this morning, as well as Andrea, and say hi to my buddy Brent Case for me. All right.
I will. Thanks so much for having me, Kristin.
Absolutely. My guest this morning, Randy Thelen, who's the president and CEO of The Right Place in Grand Rapids. I also want to thank my supporting sponsors, Marketing Resource Group, Governmental Consultant Services, Downing Industries, the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, AF Group, AT&T, and the Fraser Law Firm. You can listen to all my podcasts at connectwithkb.com. Until we connect again, go live your best life. I'm your host, Kristin Belzer.